shake your dreams from your hair. I'm already there, right beside you. So please, don't hide, just say I'll be there if it breaks, right beside you. Suddenly I know now how it feels. I no longer have to beg or steal. I can stand now on this higher ground, where love is just a sound.
Hey everyone, happy Sunday. Crystal here from Gecko Diva and welcome to Coffee and Cresties. Having a noon episode today, a little brunch special, which is pretty awesome, a little different. I got to sleep in kind of this morning. I actually got up early with the full intention of hitting the gym for once on a Sunday morning and making it not quite maybe a third of the way there and ended up realizing I forgot my scan code to go in. So turned around, got a coffee, went home instead. So here I am, all well prepared for today. And I'll probably be hitting the gym after this. Try to sneak in that workout regardless. Been really trying hard this winter to kind of kick it into gear and get myself fit for the fall, before we have a lot of expos kicking in for us, and hopefully I have a little bit more stamina standing around and not being as tired. A lot of people are joining us live already this morning. I guess the key is to have a noon episode because the 9 a.m. I know is a bit rough for some people, especially if you're on the west coast of the country, because of the time zone. So today we're doing things a little bit different. Still winter here. It snowed again yesterday, so I feel like there's no end to this winter, but hopefully it'll start to warm up again. And it's just been constant plowing through the snow and making trails and being able to manage getting around to different places on the farm. It's been a little bit of a challenge, but the end. We're in March now, so the end is near. It's getting close. I think before we pop into, we're going to give some time for people to join in the chat and say their hellos before I start giving shout outs in the chat. I'm going to do a bit of a short intro today because I have a feeling it's going to be a longer episode today. I usually like to keep them around, an hour and 15 minutes. I think it might go a little over today, but that's totally fine with me. Let's bring in the tea time and get this show started. And of course, I'm about to sneeze. That's happened during tea time. As you know, tea time is to share some positivity in the community. And we're getting pretty close to Flora Fauna. It's coming up May 2nd and 4th. And David kind of dropped some news on Thursday when we had the genetics chat that there's going to be gargoyle geckos at the Gold Standard Gecko Club this time around. So that's kind of exciting. I know the first show was last year. They're doing it again at Flora Fauna this year and expanding to Gargs, which is super exciting. And also he had mentioned that they're looking at doing a second show. So having more opportunities. I also had him say, maybe we'll come to Canada. So I'm holding him to it. It might not be this year, but let's see if we can kind of, get him to come up north would be a great time for us too. But yeah, super exciting. For those of you who are breeding Gargs, Bobby, I don't know if you're in the chat. I'm thinking of you because I know you got some really cool stuff that you're working on as well. But yeah, super exciting news. Not much else to add. The other thing I want to mention, and I did mention it on Thursday as well, is that that is Epic. So I'm a media affiliate for Epic. So, and we have actually a new promo to run today. So I'm going to go ahead and share the video with you.
It's called Epic, the Exotic Pet Industry Conference, and it's free to register at epic.live. Epic is over 20 special guests across 16 sessions covering industry trends, marketing, branding, podcasting, and YouTube. Epic is for pet keepers and breeders. It's for gecko and invert lovers. It's for snake and spider lovers. Epic is for anyone who enjoys these amazing animals. Did I mention it's free? Register now at epic.live.
So the Exotic Pet Industry Conference, a lot of awesome gecko people are taking part of this, and it's free to register. So I've already gone and registered. They're going to have different lines, like business tracks, that you can sign up for to watch the sessions live. And then after that, those have registered will have options to go back and watch all the videos after the fact. So you can still replay some of the stuff that you may have not catched. I know there's industry chats. There's, I believe that Flawless and Brian from Altitude are going to have a chat about mentorship in the hobby. So it's going to be a really good time. It's the first time they're doing this. And it sounds pretty interesting, and I think there's going to be a lot of great info there. So I definitely recommend that you check it out. And I know that they're going to be dropping more details as we get closer to the date. So definitely take some time to check it out. Right now, let's see who we have in the chat I was going to say this morning, but it's noon. So it's morning on the West Coast, but it's noon here. Natty's Micro Pets is in the house. Hello. Thanks for joining. We have House of Fauna in the house. Thanks for joining. DNA Geckos is in the house. Thanks for joining us. Cassandra, good afternoon. Excited to be able to stay for the whole show. That's awesome. I'm glad you can stick around too. And then we have Quincy, Gecko Nerd in the house. Good afternoon. I guess it is afternoon, right? Morning for some, afternoon for others. Heather's in the house. Thanks for joining. Keyline Exotics. Sirkin Exotics is in the house. Good afternoon. And there's Bobby. I don't know if you caught me saying it in the tea time, Bobby, but I was just mentioning how Gargs are going to be in the Gold Standard Gecko Club this year. So that's right up your alley. You got Kathy in the house. Good afternoon. Aaron Wheeler in the house. Good afternoon. And it looks like we have a good amount of people watching live today, which is awesome. Not everyone wants to maybe put a comment in the chat, but it is live. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them. That's what we're here for. That's why we do this live, and we're gonna have a good time. And we have 403 geckos in the house as well. Thanks for joining. So I think we're just gonna get down to business and bring out our guest. So I got to find her little intro, and here we go. Hey guys, how's it going?
Yo, how's it going?
Good. We have Anthony and Jess from Lil Monsters in the house today. And we did a little something different having at noon because it's early for you guys where you are.
Yeah, it's 9 right now.
Early for him. He is not a morning person.
That's true.
I think it was funny when I first reached out. I'm like, oh yeah, it's at 9 in the morning. You're like, oh, that's 6. I'm not up at 6, especially not up on a Sunday.
Yeah, no way. I'll never try to get up at 6. I'm not a morning person. Night,
I
though,
feel like
I can stay up till 2 a.m. No problem.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Jess, are you a morning person or are you
I'm a morning
more?
person, yeah. Sometimes like I'll be running around the house and I'm like, why is he still sleeping? Like I'll like go mess with him. He's like, I'm still sleeping, leave me alone.
Yeah, I've
Yeah, she
never
wakes up
been
at
a
5
morning
in the
person.
morning.
What's that?
She wakes up at like 5 in the morning. I don't know how she does
Oh,
it.
okay. Well, you got to get an early start to your day. We early risers here too. I was a night owl for the longest time, and then I started having to convert into being a morning person because there was just so much needed to get done in the morning, and it takes a while. You get used to it. It comes around, and now 9, 10 o'clock, I could be. I just can't stay up late anymore. It's what
Yeah,
Yeah.
happens when you get up early, right? You only need so much. You need at
that makes
least a certain amount of sleep.
Yeah, I can
So
only get up really early in the mornings if for work. Like if I have a job that I have that I'm working on or something, then I'll wake up, but I'm still a night person. I still will go to sleep at 1 in the morning. So I get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep for like a month straight. It's
I drag
horrible.
you to the gym in the morning.
Oh, that too.
yeah, but do you take daytime naps to
Who
like
knows?
Yeah,
offset
I
it?
try to. Yeah, I try to. Yeah.
Like I'll take him. Like I'm like, come on, let's go to the gym. Let's go. And lately we've been going a little bit later. But after the gym, he'll shower and then take a nap. He's like, this is way too early for
Yeah,
me.
for sure.
I feel yeah. I know my husband too. He can stay up really late, and then he gets up. I think like probably around like 4. I would say 4:15, 4:30 in the morning to get to work like for 6, right? And like he'll come home and he'll take a nap. Like he'll have like an hour nap when he gets home and then has dinner and then could stay up and then could stay up late or maybe take a second nap. It really depends on the day and where you're
Yeah,
in the week, and how much sleep you may have lost.
true.
You got to get the sleep where you can. I'm definitely I can't take naps. It's terrible for me. If I
I
do,
love
then it
naps. They're my favorite thing in the world.
ruins my day. I think so. I like to start this is just kind of do a little intro. I know you guys have been online and doing stuff quite a bit. You guys have been on the Gecko Pod talking genetics, and I'm sure there's a lot of people in the chat that have tons of questions. But I kind of wanted to get started on like just the start of Little Monsters, like how you guys started this, where how you fell into geckos, and where you came up with the name. So you want to share that story?
Gotcha. So yeah. For me, I really just got into reptiles when I was around 15. I saw a shop in my local area, and as I was skating by, and it had reptiles in it, and I was like blown away. I was like, "That's you can do that." So I walked in, I looked at a bunch of stuff, and I wanted a Nile monitor. That was the first thing I wanted.
As the first reptile.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know they got to like 6 feet, so
Cute babies.
they're
They're
adorable.
so cute.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
And then the shop owner talked me into a leopard gecko instead.
Okay.
And so yeah, so I had her name was Hex for like ever. So she passed away from old age. Took her to school with me,
the movies.
the movies, all sorts of places. She would always just hang out in my hoodie.
Could you imagine now too with like how social media is? Like you could have had a whole platform just with that
I
leopard
know,
gecko,
right?
going to the
Imagine,
movies, going to school. Like that would have hit a
right?
lot of
She'd be
follows
always
right
popping her little head up here too.
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, and
so
then
so
I came
yeah,
up with
sorry,
the
go ahead.
name with my uncle. He helped me out with it. We were thinking about names as we were chatting, and yeah, ever since then I've been like always aiming for Lil Monsters. And then Jess came into the picture.
I found like a little doodle like on a notebook paper and it said Little Monsters and it had a doodle of a monster on it. I'm like, what is Little Monsters? What is this? And then he told me the story. I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah,
But I love reptiles, but I didn't have any. My mom was like, no, you can have a dog, but that's it. You can't have any reptiles. You can't have cats. You can't, And then I met Anthony. He took me to my first expo and brought home a bearded dragon and a crested gecko. You've had crested geckos before.
Mhm.
And then that's how it kind of started. I took my bearded dragon everywhere like you. Like I had like a little harness leash on her and I take her to
the park, all over the place.
we would take the bearded dragon and the dog to the park together.
Mhm.
They got along.
Yeah,
We had it for a long time, but yeah, we said, after I found the doodle, like, hey, we should really do this. This is kind of
Yeah.
fun.
And then
Let's try it
a
out.
year later is when I really opened the business
Mhm.
name and got it all registered and stuff like that.
Awesome. So how long have you been like official, like Little Monsters as a business?
2007.
Okay.
End of 2007. Yeah.
And like the logo itself, like is that something that you guys like had someone design or how like I love it. It's
So
so much
the
fun.
logo is something that I've always wanted. I
Mhm.
can kind of draw. I
Okay.
don't consider myself an artist, but I can draw.
The
And
doodle.
so I designed the monsters, and then I found somebody online that has a style of comic
Mhm.
book art that I like, right?
Okay.
So it's like think of like, like Spawn and all that like insane detail that's in the drawing, right? Like with the
Yeah.
shadows and extra things around it. So same thing with the monsters. I found somebody that had that style. He drew like that like decades and decades ago. So when I first approached him, he had a new style of drawing that wasn't like that, and so it took me a while to get him to go back to that original artist drawing that he had when he was younger, I guess. And then once he went full into it, then he nailed the design that I liked.
And we
So
started with one monster.
yeah,
started
because I
with
wanted
Havoc.
species,
Mhm.
all the species that we work with, basically.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So you showed him like what you're looking for, what type of like from his work, what you liked, and then
Mhm.
show a picture of the gecko. So Havoc is after our Havoc Crested
Havoc is a
Gecko.
crested,
Yeah.
yeah,
So he kind of incorporated Crested Gecko into the doodle.
into the design, yeah.
The design, yeah.
So it's Crested Geckos is Havoc. Spitfire, which is a little round guy, he's a gargoyle. This one right here.
Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyway, yeah. And yeah, he's actually he's perfectly identical to the exact drawing that I had for him because we were going back and forth on how to draw the gargoyle, and I was like, no. I was like, how about let me draw something, and then I drew it and I sent it to him, and then he like it was the same day he gives me back the same drawing, and I was like,
perfect.
it's exactly what I
Yeah.
drew. I was like, he did literally exactly what I wanted, but in his style. So I was like, it's perfect. It's one of
That's
everybody's
awesome.
favorite characters.
Yeah.
Then we got Voodoo, which is a
Chihuahua.
Chihuahua, and then we got Soul.
Soul was the last one. So originally it was just the 3 geckos.
Yeah,
And then eventually we added the 4th one, and we're like, this is perfect. It like
yeah. We needed one
completed
more
something.
around it, and then we also wanted to highlight like our bigger species that we
Yeah,
work
and
with.
Soul
Right?
is after our
Mm.
spiny tail iguana,
Yeah.
our baker eye.
Okay, awesome. Are you planning on adding another monster? Or
I
were you
want to,
sticking
but Anthony told me, he was like, that's too many. I want to
I
add.
think if we do, which I think we will, I think we're going to add other monsters. We're not going to include them in the 4 or in the group of 4, but we'll
Yeah.
probably make like stickers, T-shirts, and stuff like that, and sweaters.
Okay.
What else? And then we'll include them like throughout the website. Obviously, we're writing the Foundation Genetics book, which is going to be way more highly detailed than what's on the website. So
Okay.
it's also going to include several new genes and several genes that weren't discussed in the book because they were still being worked on. So we're going to include that. We're going to probably sprinkle monsters throughout the book as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it's going to be a full picture book.
But our artist is in the Netherlands.
He's in the Netherlands, yeah.
And sometimes he goes off of, like, he doesn't.
Socials.
Yeah, he goes off of social media, and then he doesn't draw for a while.
Yeah.
So it's like we have to catch him at the right time.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll probably add a couple more for sure.
At least you have your artist. My artist decided to no longer do art anymore. So she completely went out of business. So I have the Gecko Diva main logo, and then I did the Polybius character for the Pixel project. And then I have my Night Howler girl in the martini glass that's for all the Dark Phantom stuff. And I wanted to kind of add some extra things. And I'm like, oh, no, I have to find somebody else. And it's hard to find an artist, especially one that's going to do a similar style to keep it, right? Like
That's
what
really,
you
really
already
hard to
have
do that.
as your brand.
My artist, he went off for I think it was 4 or 5 years. He
Okay.
actually only recently reached back out to us this end of December or early December. I was trying to get him to add a couple of additions to it, and then he's gone offline again. He'll probably be back later this year, and then maybe I can
Okay.
get him to do a couple more character designs and some special ones for like the holidays and things like that.
Oh,
So
that's fun. Is there
That's
any
what I really
plan
want,
for
is, like, holiday versions
the
of them.
holiday one?
yeah, we're gonna do all holiday versions of them and stuff like that. So as soon as he's back online, I'm gonna have him do those renderings for me. And then I already have all the characters in 3D, so we
Okay.
are gonna start releasing resin prints of them. So people
That's
can
fun.
purchase those. They're like nice little statues. They've got a little platform and everything like that. The platform's actually I'm gonna make it functional, so it
You
actually
have them
does
right
stuff.
there if you want to grab one.
Oh yeah, actually I do have them.
It show.
I know there's a company too that does stuffed animals for a lot of content creators and stuff,
Cute.
where they'll design it and then you have it for sale for a certain amount of time. I know a tarantula cat was doing some with some of her tarantulas, and they'll do like a little stuffed animal, and then you have like a month or two to buy them, and then they print the limited edition for the people who've purchased them.
Oh, I like
Oh,
that.
that's cool.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's
Soul.
Soul.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, that's super
Yeah.
neat.
A lot of my work also is 3D. I do a lot of 3D work in
Yeah.
like Unreal and Blender and stuff. That's what I do for my work. So I'm extremely picky about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And
Natty, I
it
don't know if
comes
that's
out perfect.
Natty, is that the like stuffed animal company? Is it Makeshift? I'm not sure. She's put that in the chat. Yeah, those are so neat. Is there any like plan to like make a fun little comic book or something? Like a little fun.
Actually, you know what? Someone reached out to us at a show. He's the author for Age of Adeline, and his daughter actually bought a gecko from us, and he was like, you know what? You
cool.
should make your characters into a comic strip. You know how they used to do like Calvin and Hobbes,
Yeah,
like the
yeah,
newspaper
yeah.
strips. He's like, you guys should release that. So,
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool to do something like that.
but it's also
at some
another thing
point,
to
but
add to our project.
we
and
have
we're
so much
busy.
going on.
Like even just like you're doing things for the holidays and stuff, you can put
Yeah.
like even like a little Christmas story, where it's
Yeah.
just a small little, not a graphic novel,
Yeah.
like just a small little
Have
comic
you
book.
seen our 3D renders
On
No, I
Insta.
don't.
on Instagram?
No.
Well,
Oh
we do
yes,
some.
I think so.
Yeah, so
I
we
ca-
do I do those all myself, and
Mhm.
so
Okay.
the end goal is I'm gonna have those characters also animated and running around, and maybe at that point I'll probably do some type of like a short
Oh, you're
stories
talking
or
about
something.
the Christmas videos and stuff that happen, eh? Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep,
those
the
are a lot of
Halloween
fun.
ones
The
and stuff.
Halloween one, yeah, those
Mhm.
are super fun.
Yeah, so I'll
Um,
probably do those and have the monsters actually physically animated and stuff like that.
yeah, Natty's correcting. So it's called Makeshift, is the company who does limited edition plush animals.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll look into that. Hey, Natty, can you send that to me on Instagram on our Lil Monsters page? And I'll look into that. That'd be cool to have
Yeah.
all
See, I
monsters
think
in
you
there.
have to have they look into your socials and they see like how many followers you have and stuff because they want to make sure
Mhm.
that you're going to meet like a threshold of buyers.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
Yeah, but it's limited edition, so basically they only make the amount of
Thanks.
what you've sold. And then if you don't buy it by the deadline, there's no you can't get it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's like your
Yeah.
Godzilla stuff.
Oh,
The
yeah.
pre-orders.
Yeah.
It gives like
That's awesome.
Godzilla figures. Like,
Yeah, I get
well, how big? That's like 13 inches. The last
12
one.
was the last one. And it was
Oh,
a big
pretty
old
big.
Godzilla.
You're a big Godzilla
Yep.
fan?
I
Oh,
am, yeah.
huge.
Do you have the humidifier? I've seen that going around
Oh my
online.
god, you were just talking.
Oh, that. I've looked at it, but no, I don't. I don't buy every single thing. I just buy very particular.
Yeah. But that was really cute.
Yeah.
It's fun. Like sometimes you find little things that you collect. I have like we breed kuni pigs here on the farm, and we kind of take a little bit of pause. But like if you saw Moana, it's the little spotted pigs, right? And they're fluffy and
Yeah.
cute. So every time I go somewhere and I see something like a stuffed animal or a little character or toy, and I'm like, of a pig. I'm like, I have to get that and
That is
collect
so
That's
cute.
funny.
pigs.
That's adorable.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you're doing a book. So is this going to be a physical book for
It's a
genetics? Is
physical
that the
book.
plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what's the timeline on this? When are you planning on launching
I
this
want to
book?
finish it this year. I already have plans with publisher and stuff like that. As I've spoken before, I'm really detail oriented, so I focus on every little thing. So I want it to be as perfect as possible because I want it to be something that's really, really useful for people. It's not going to just be genetics though.
Okay.
It's going to be like husbandry and a bunch of other advanced topics when it comes to not just cresteds, but even if you're like cohabbing and stuff like that with other species and things like that. I don't know if you've seen any of the books from like Ellen and Philippe, but like things like that, things that we
Okay.
actually have experience with here. Food issues that you can get with them, like genetic issues that are like gout and things like that you can find in crested geckos. Why some of them might die young at a certain
Oh
age.
wow. Okay.
We have a lot of detailed photos on stuff. We used to have like way more, but I lost my computer a long time ago, probably in like 2014. It
Oh
wiped out all
no.
my records of old photos. So I managed to recover some of them, but not all of them. But we had pictures of things like autopsy pictures if an animal passes away at a certain age. Things of like that you
Wow.
could look out for like eye issues. Those are recent ones. It's been more prevalent and common because of the cappuccino, the supers. When we released the article, it was one of the issues that was noticed. So at least that's become more mainstream. But before that, it was going to be in the book, how to treat it, and things like that.
Yeah. Heather's popping in there. She's like, Cohab canceled.
Yeah, exactly. Cancel me. Co-housing is terrible.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, so are you having some cohab projects with cresteds, or is it with other species?
No,
Just to
no,
clarify
not right
that.
now. Not
We
right
don't
now.
cohab at all.
No.
Not at all. No. Okay.
We've played with it before in the past, but not really. Yeah. And then like if you have like let's say you have a male and a female together long term,
Mhm.
we've had many males and females that have been together for over 10 years.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they've lived together, not a problem. Things to look out for if you have like multiple females and stuff like that and multiple groups. Yeah. But just tips and tricks and things like that. They're not going to be like full on like multiple pages of like cohabbing or anything like that.
That's
It's more
awesome.
like a paragraph or two.
We actually raise all our babies separate too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of raising them in like groups.
Yeah, I've seen some people do that where they raise them in groups. I know, like for space, like I have a very small amount here compared to a lot of other people. So I mean, I just do them all separate. And I do have
Yeah.
the pairs, like if they get along, I'll keep a male and a female for for a portion of the season or whatever until I decide to separate them. But for the most part, yeah, like I have seen instances where, I mean, as long I would imagine as long as they're young enough or they have enough space and you're doing it
Mhm.
ethically and you have the ability to make sure that they're comfortable and that they're healthy,
Yeah.
then
As long as they're being monitored.
yeah.
Yeah, we've cohabbed multiple baby crested geckos together too back
In
in
the
the past.
beginning, yeah.
Even a lychee.
It's just easier to keep track of like complete lineage, birthday, all that stuff, and
Yeah.
make sure that there's no tail nips, toe nips.
Well, that's
Yeah,
the thing,
especially when
right?
especially when we were doing the genetics and everything, we needed to keep records of literally everything.
Yeah.
Not just like an ID of the gecko or who the parents were, like literally all the genes that the gecko is supposed to have, and then document that when it has offspring.
Mhm.
So when you go through all that work, you end up having a pretty decent ID system.
Yeah.
So we had an
Mhm.
ID system that was matched with a binary numerical system between 0 and 3. 0 if it contains a gene, 1 if it contains a single copy, 3 if it contains 2 copies, blah blah blah.
He's a code nerd.
Okay. So are you doing this
Anyway,
all in an Excel spreadsheet? Is that how you're tracking everything or are
well,
you
we track
using
everything on labels on the animals. And so most of it's all just like on labels on the on tubs with the animals that they come off. They're removable labels, and then they can go into new tubs whenever we clean, wash, and swap the tubs and stuff like that.
Which is me. He says I'm very analog. Because if it was up to him, he would have a barcode, and then you would scan the barcode, and like all this information.
No,
would be...
barcode's too much work.
Yeah.
Oh man, you guys
gonna
got to
do a
look
barcode.
into. Have you heard of Husbandry Pro? Have you looked into that? Husbandry
Uh,
Pro,
no.
ball python people use it. My husband uses it, and I was thinking of starting to do it for my geckos too, because it's online interface where you put everything in. It tracks all the lineage. You can tag your hatchlings to the pairings and such,
Yeah.
and then you can print off a QR code on a
Mm-hmm.
sticker with the information label, and you can put them on your bins. So then when you go around and you scan the animal, it tells you absolutely everything. You can track
That is
feeding,
right up
Yeah.
your alley.
shedding, like
but-
everything.
Yeah, for me, we started so early that like such a system didn't exist. I did try to
so
make an app
much.
at one point, but if you have a barcode, you have to scan it to know what it is. I want to be able to see
Yeah.
it and know exactly.
No, it's
what
on
it is.
there. It's on there. So his labels will say species. It has, I'm pretty sure his actually has the genetics, and then it has the QR code that takes you to their
Oh, really?
page on the app. Yeah. And the other thing is you can actually link it where when you sell an animal, people can get access to the information through the barcode as well. So yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. And if you
That
have
is kinda
any
cool, actually.
medical things that you want to keep track, you can track it in their
Mhm.
file, so you can always go back and reference things. Which is
Oh,
kinda
that is
neat.
actually really nice then. I didn't know that. I
Yeah.
thought it was just a barcode by itself.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
kinda cool,
And,
actually.
I mean, the only downside is if you have so many animals, is the amount of time it's going to take you to input all of them in the
That info.
system. But I believe, and I'm not sure, I'd have to look into it, but I think they might have a system where you can upload like a spreadsheet. So kind of similar to what you
Okay.
can do like with Morph Market.
Yeah, that makes sense. We do have
Yeah.
spreadsheets with like all the animals and stuff and information on them as well. So
Yeah.
that would probably.
Hi, Scott.
Yeah, Miami Art is in the house. Thanks for joining, Scott. So I guess we can start talking with some genetics. Before we get in, is there new stuff that you're going to be including in this book that's not online that you care to share? Or
Currently, yeah.
Did you release the article yet?
No.
Hmm.
We have an article, a new one coming out soon with marbling.
okay, that's been
It's an
pretty big
interesting
one lately.
looking characteristics and traits on those animals. I like the scalation on them. That's pretty trippy.
That's cool. And I mean, there's so many new things coming out too, right? Like I know even on the Gecko Pod, there was mention of Kingpin, and we have some different variations of Tangerine that's coming out. There's the monochrome that's been discussed. There's like so many different things
Honestly,
that keep popping up.
I do want to include all of those at some point if I can get them into the book. If there's enough information available for them at that point. So we'll see. Kingpin's really interesting too, yeah.
Yeah, Cassandra says, I use Husbandry Pro for my small group. I put everything on there, but I'm still learning how to use it. Yeah, and I think they make updates to it too. And Scott's saying, watching Feeding Geckos and eating Girl Scout cookies.
Girl
okay.
Scout cookies. Oh
What
my
kind
God.
of Girl Scout cookies are out right now? Are they the chocolate vanilla or are they the, I don't think it's the mint ones right now.
But they have different
Wait, they
ones.
released them different? I thought they released them all at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's different in Canada. I don't know. We have one season where you'll get where it's like chocolate mint ones, and the mint ones is the one he says. And then there's another season where they'll have similar to like it's like a vanilla cookie with cream in the middle, or a chocolate cookie with chocolate cream in the middle.
I was a Girl Scout. I ate so many cookies growing up. Because we had to sell them, and then I'd like buy like all 12 flavors or 12 or so flavors. I had to try all of them.
There's that many flavors? I'm only aware of the 3.
There's a bunch. There's so many
Yeah,
flavors.
no, there's a bunch.
Even now, there's even more. There's even like a gluten-free shortbread cookie.
That's gluten-free version?
Gluten-free version, yeah.
I love the shortbread
They have
ones.
the
Those are my
coconut
favorite
chocolate
ones.
one.
I can
The
eat those all
Samoas.
day
Wow.
long.
And Cassandra says chocolate mint is winter season in Canada, which is a very long season, Cassandra. And Aaron's
We have a
asking
winter
monthly
here.
service
It
fee
lasts about a week.
for
It feels like winter now because it's kind of rainy.
in California. I'm sure it feels like winter.
It's cold. I can still wear shorts, but it's still cold.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I messaged Alicia from Rogue, and she's in Canada too. And I'm like, it's so cold. I sent her, and she's like, "What the heck are you
Well,
talking about?" She always like shows me
Alicia's
like
in-
16 or
Single digit
She's in
numbers.
BC though, right?
Or,
So
like,
it's still a little bit
You guys have
milder there.
sometimes like a dash in front of your numbers.
a dash.
Your single digit numbers is
Your dash.
it's very strange. to me.
Negative digits. What?
But single digit numbers. Oh, because we're against Celsius. Yeah.
I mean, even Fahrenheit,
It was
you
like
guys are pretty
minus
low.
20 last night.
Yeah, that's horrible. What?
Celsius.
Oh God! No,
Yeah, so
that
here
sounds
now I gotta
terrible.
convert it. I did this the last time someone was asking about different temperatures. So Celsius to Fahrenheit. Hold on. minus 20 is minus 4 Fahrenheit is what it is.
Yeah, see, it's still -4. That's
Yeah.
horrible. That's horrifying.
Does it ever get -4 anywhere in California?
No, it never
Maybe
gets
in the-
below 30.
Maybe in the mountains.
Oh well, yeah, in the mountains it does for sure. But I mean, like where we're at, it never gets like below like I don't know what's the coldest we've ever seen, like
32.
30, really, maybe 32. Okay,
Maybe 34.
Now I gotta look this up so I know what you're talking about. So 32. Oh,
yeah.
0. Oh, it's so cold.
Oh,
I was like,
remember
it was
that
0
in-
the other day, and I was out in a t-shirt. And I was like, "Oh, it's
No.
warm out here."
No.
no way, that's freezing.
That's like winter clothes here, like poofy jacket. Too cold.
Yeah. Yeah, you
And
get
you
all
gotta
cozy.
you have to like acclimatize yourself though. If you know it's gonna get really cold, the jacket is your last resort when it's really cold. Like
True.
if it's like today, it was -4 Fahrenheit, and I was out in a hoodie and a toque because I know I'm going to the vehicle and back, so I'm not going to wear a jacket between, so I'm not too warm.
Right.
Just want to answer Aaron's question. So monthly service fees for Husbandry Pro, I believe it depends on the number of animals that you have in it. So I think you can have like a free version if you're under a certain amount. I don't know if that's changed. But yeah, you'd just have to check on their site, and then you pay if you're going to have more animals. Let's bring up some animals and start talking about some projects that you're working with.
Ah, cool. Yeah, those are our we have some special lily projects that we're
That
playing
gecko
with.
has 2 names. I named her one
What
thing
are
and then I
they?
forgot, and then I named her another, and then
That's
so we
true.
started going off of the second name, and then one day I'm like, wait a minute, her original name is Shirley Temple.
Yeah.
So we've been calling her Saber.
You've been calling her Saber.
Yeah.
I've been calling her Shirley Temple.
So
Yeah, we have some special lily projects that are really interesting. Her animals that she produces have these really weird dorsals. It's just a really interesting pattern. So
Okay.
that she seems to be passing on. So we really like interesting looking lilies instead of just like your normal classic lilies.
Yeah.
And we just in general we try to make interesting combos to see just like what the variety really is out there, rather than the mainstream kind of look or appearance of the animals.
So she's currently in with a cappuccino, and the fraps that they're making, instead of having clear lines, it kind of like zigzaggy,
Yeah.
like something took a
Oh,
bite out of
cool.
all the pattern.
Yeah.
Like really funky stuff. She's
Yeah.
a funky.
Some people
she
would
makes-
probably say like it'd be pixelish, but
Yeah.
it's got a really interesting patterning to it, which is really cool.
Well, that's neat. I find it fun to work with some different stuff, right? And like create funky looking animals. It's not
Oh, yeah.
everyone's cup of tea. Some people really like to know what they're producing, and I'm like, oh, I wonder what happens if I put these two together.
But with this particular cap, they're making them because she was paired with a different cap last season,
Oh yeah, that's
and they
true.
made different looking fraps.
Yeah,
So it's like this male with hers. doing
that's a
some cool
really
stuff, yeah.
solid like tie-in together to make some really
Mhm.
interesting frappuccinos.
Okay. So what projects right now are you working with Lily? Like, is there specific visions that you're having? Like, are you working
Um,
them?
we have some interesting ones that we got recently from Dawn. They're like Doberman line ones that have some like really cool patterning to it.
Okay.
I really like, if anything, if you're going to be using, like, if I'm for us when we use Lily, we like to see what the variety of the Lily gene is that's out there. So
Mhm.
we have some really awesome tangerine lilies. We've got the highlighter lilies. We've got Beetlejuice. I think I sent you a picture of Beetlejuice too if you want to pull him up. He's like the really bright yellow one.
You
We got
might
that
be
one. Those are
able.
pumpkin head lilies
Is it this one?
that we like. Yeah, that one right there.
Okay.
He is really, really highlighter yellow. I don't know
It's like
exactly.
neon.
Yeah, it's like neon. It's pretty cool. So interesting lily combos like this is what we really like playing with. See if
Have you
what you can do with the gene.
have you found anything like trends with the highlighter yellows? Because I know there's been a lot of talk of if it's similar to tangerine or like in
Yeah.
animals maybe that don't have lily. Are you finding it on those animals? Like, what are your
So
experience
the
working
the
with?
whole tangerine thing might have started with us, which was what we suggested.
Okay.
It's not fully proven yet, but the ones that we are making are with the tangerine combos.
Okay.
But it's a single copy of the tangerine gene that's making them.
Okay.
So it's donated from one parent, where where the other parent doesn't have tangerine in it.
Gotcha. So you're finding.
That's also where we're trying to work the pumpkin head lilies as well.
Okay, so that's the one before, eh?
Oh yeah,
These
his mom was.
That was the pairing right there.
Okay. So this is the pairing that produced that highlighter
Yeah.
lily.
Mhm.
Wow, that's awesome.
And so that female right there is a tangerine, super soft scale Dalmatian.
Okay.
The
So
cool
the
thing, the
chances
weird thing
are.
about tangerine is when you have one copy of the gene, it's not an extreme look, but it's really easy to see the difference when you have two copies of the gene. I think I sent you a picture where I had like my hand open and I had like a bunch of yellow geckos on it, orange and yellow.
That's actually not his mom.
I think
That one? I
so.
thought it was.
No, that's Lucy Hartfilia.
No, it's
Oh, it's
not
the
that
other
one.
It's
female.
Clementine.
Clementine. She looks really similar.
No, she's tangerine.
Yeah, she's
like
tangerine.
full on
So
tangerine.
if you look here on the far left, right, we've got yellow. And then in the
Yep.
middle are single copy tangerines. And on the right is the homozygous form.
Okay, wow. So you're
all
seeing
these-
like the color is really more on like the base is what you're seeing the tangerine too, right? Like the base color is just more of a vibrant, darker yellow.
It depends. If it's a yellow base, then you'll see it more in the yellow. If it's a lavender, you're going to see it more in the pattern.
Okay.
So like it depends on the look of the phenotype that you're working the combo with.
Okay. You see, I've learned something new today because I work with a lot of yellows, and I'm like, how do
The
I
cool
know
thing
if I'm
here-
seeing tangerine
The
in this
cool thing here is
yellow?
that these are all yellow based animals,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then so what does the tangerine do to the yellow base, right? So we do the same exact experiment, but we'll do it with yellow base, red base, and then black base, right?
Okay.
And then at that point we'll add in whether or not hypo is present in each one. At that point you start getting into like, holy shit, I should have a ton of geckos now. So the experiment will slow down a little bit. So that's why it takes several years to actually like really work these things into projects and prove them out, because you have to be very specific about the genes that you're using. And maybe you don't even have the animal to create that combination of data that you require in order to prove out the theory, right? So, sometimes I have to make the animal first and then continue the project.
Gotcha. So you finding that you're getting animals with tangerine that is more like where the pattern itself might not look as orange or as bright, but you're seeing it a lot on the base, or is it kind of come hand in hand where it's like a blanket on the full animal? Or
For the most part, you'll see it in the pattern, and then you'll see it in the base if it's a yellow base animal. You won't see as much in the red. You'll get these orangey colored reds. You know those ones that we
Yeah.
produce? Those ones.
Yeah.
You'll get
It's like
that.
they look like red and
What's
gold
the
almost.
color that you would use to describe that? Like orangey red, though. I really don't know. It's just like
Orangey
Listen,
red.
okay, I think orangey red looks coral in color to me when you're looking at a coral color, but I've read
Yeah,
this stuff
kind
about
of.
coral and it's not what it's explaining it.
Yeah. Coral. I actually have a section on coral for coral looking animals for their laterals, or
Yeah.
for the yellow based animals as well. Coral is actually a thing, but it's not so much what I'm talking about with the red ones, because coral, you're looking at like different versions of orange that have like a pinkish hue to it,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
like the orangey reds are like literally like orange smashed with red. Like, yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, tangerine will affect red a bit, obviously, because
Rust?
like a
Very
like a
rusty.
soft kind of rust color, maybe.
Terracotta. We're just gonna start throwing
No,
colors.
stop. So the interesting thing is that like you can keep playing around with colors and and theories and ideas, right? But then like at some point, while you're working the genes and the genetic stuff, you're gonna want to observe the mechanisms that are responsible for creating the color that you're looking at, because this will help outline the theory as to what you're actually doing to the animal. So if you think about oranges, reds, and yellows, well, they're all produced in the same layer, the topmost layer of the chromatophore. So
Yeah.
you've got basically a bubble where all these colors are produced and where they all live. So they all mix and they intermingle kind of in that area, which is interesting, because if you talk to a lot of gecko people, we like to put things like in layers, how like, oh, white pattern is on top of this and blah blah blah. White pattern is actually not ever on top of anything. It's literally just reflecting 100% of light back for the chromatophore that's there, which means there's no yellow, orange, or red, which actually lives above what technically would live above white physically.
Okay.
So that's kind of part of like the YouTube series that I'm trying to start, is like explaining these things like in real deep detail, because it's helpful to think of all these things as like layers that like stack on top of each other when you're breeding them, because when you conceptualize like it like that, you're able to perceive or at least predict what your offspring are going to look like. But if you try to do it from a mechanical perspective or a genetic perspective, it actually breaks down, because it's not possible. White cannot possibly live on top, even though we see it like that, right? We see it as like,
Yeah.
but white pattern on top on the laterals, but because we speak of things as like, oh, you've got a yellow base, which is like at the bottom. Just the verbiage alone means that it's at the bottom, right? So
I think also scalation makes it look like it's on top, like Lily, where she's like,
yeah, it looks
or
like
white
Lily goes on
walrus.
top of everything, but that's a nice way to explain what the offspring are going to look like.
I think what's
I'm
missing from
bringing
that picture is Phantom.
I'm bringing one up right now that came out of a tri lily that produced it, and it was I'm pretty sure it's a strawberry phantom empty back, or head empty back with one copy, and it does kind of have the orange hues to the red. So I don't know if that's kind of what you're talking about with like red and kind of orange mash, because
Yeah, kind of.
it's a little bit more on the red side, and it'll fire up like a real orangey kind of red. And then when it goes down, it's almost like a peach color when it fires down.
Gotcha. Like almost like like a brickish, but with more orange
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that thing looks like a head empty back for sure.
We'll bring back the other ones. And where were we? We were at this one, and then we're here. So lemon.
More Lily special projects. This is our lemon drop girl. She's amazing.
So tell me about this one. So like you're going in like the yellow, I guess. This is
so a lot
like,
of
this one?
So I've got a lot of theories that I put out there with like Phantom, how it's recessive, how it works, and how you can make basically it doubles all the phenotypes that we have in our population of animals. And so there was a topic, I think, at Flora Fauna, somebody asked why you don't see like unicolor phantom yellows for the most part. And I
Okay.
was like, of course you do. And so I had pictures on my phone, obviously, because I tried to make every single phenotype of everything I can before writing and proposing all these theories to the community. And so this is part of one of those projects where we want to do the lily version of it, right?
Okay.
So that's probably one thing we didn't do during the book because it was all like early on, before like 2010 and when the lilies like really started to get popular. So we didn't lilify everything, if that makes sense. So we're in the process of like currently like adding Lily to a lot of like of our special projects that we proved out, and then like even during all that time of trying to prove all these genes, we took certain projects in certain directions to like stack them with as many genes as possible. Just like, okay, well, if this is a gene, then I can do this and turn this into an additional phenotype and like see what that would do. And of course, as you continuously add multiple genes onto things, they start forming really wild looking crested geckos to a degree.
Yeah.
So this is part of those special projects. And then we have like things like pandemonium and things like that where you just try to stack multiple things into the moon.
Maple.
There you go. That's the lily-ish version, the lily version of within those special projects. So that female we got from a friend at a show, and it's gonna go to our punks and our pandemonium projects,
That's fun. It looks
which are the
similar
non-lily
to
costumes.
Cubert is the one I have here that I bought to
Oh, really?
potentially go into my pixel project, maybe.
Mm.
But yeah, that's a really cool looking lily. I love it. And with like the dark kind of
Mhm.
contracts even on the dorsal is really neat.
Yeah, it's really cool that you can really like make some wildly interesting phenotypes with this stuff. But I just love doing different things. One of my favorite things.
That's awesome. And is this
Oh,
this
this
is
is
I think you
There's so
said
much to do with Lily too. Still,
yeah. There's a lot.
well, there's so many things that haven't been done yet, you know?
Yeah.
Like this week we were even talking about like having 2 copies of Empty Back in Lily. Like have
Yeah,
you
super EV
seen
lilies. I have
like
not, but I have seen some that I suspect could be.
okay.
We have a bunch of head empty back lilies this year that are breeding to super empty backs, so we'll see what those end up producing.
I actually have a good question on the empty backs subject with
Oh yeah,
lilies.
shoot.
Have you seen anything with empty back in phantom lilies and how that may express?
We don't have any phantom head empty backs.
Okay. 'Cause I
Lily.
know for
Empty back
myself
lilies.
personally, I'm struggling with that
I
one
have a
because
lot of
I worked it into the project and I'm like, how do I identify a phantom lily versus a phantom empty back lily?
yeah, we
Yeah.
have a lot
Or
of
head empty
phantom
back.
empty backs and super empty backs though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw a
Okay.
bunch of those at shows. They're pretty cool looking. They're pretty distinct. They're exactly what you would imagine the super empty back to look like. And then when Phantom comes in, it just suppresses some of that coloration of the pinning. And so
Yeah.
like it's like a black pin instead of a white one. But you can
Yeah.
still clearly see it.
But we had
Oh
a
yeah.
Black Phantom Super Stripe since 2008, 2009, and we didn't know because it
Oh
was
yeah,
like
yeah,
silver
yeah.
the
Het
entire
super
time. And
stripe.
then one day I was
You're
like,
talking about Wrath?
yeah. And
Yeah.
then we started working more with identifying empty back and super stripes. And then one day I looked at him like, did you know he was a super stripe? And then he's like, there's no way. So we bred him, and sure enough, like
Yeah,
his babies
that one
were.
was funny.
I
Yeah.
find
The
I
Phantom
really,
type.
really like the empty backs with phantom. It's almost like you put like a sheer over them, like, and then
Right?
when they're in different fire states, you can really see the pattern
Phantom
underneath it.
everything.
Yeah, I
Just
like that. That's
Phantom
a really nice
everything.
description. Like you put
Yeah.
a sheer
Yeah.
yeah
Yeah, I'm
over
just gonna
them. I
put a
like that.
curtain over you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's exactly what it is. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good description. I like that. You
Gecko
splashed them with a
Cove is
coffee curtain.
yeah. Gecko Cove is saying after watching your latest Gecko Pod episode, I was tempted to get a fire cresty to breed to a lily
Cool.
white sable to see what they could make. Sounds like a fun project.
Wait, fire as in like the pinky with the black eye Lucy? Fire?
So let's
Oh, yeah.
let's maybe
That's
Fire
what-
clarify
talking
some of
about.
the language.
Maybe
So
that's
fire
the
is the
Black
new
eye
genetic.
Lucy.
Yeah, so fire is
yeah.
the new
There's, like-
name for genetic hypo, right? Is that what it is? Or am I-
That's
yeah,
Go
okay.
Yeah.
go with Pinky. Isn't Reptiles by Mac was the first person that came out with those. He was the first person who coined it as Pinky.
Okay.
And then I think after that, the day after is when Genetic Hypo was released. And then
Okay.
after Genetic Hypo, it was renamed to Fire.
I like the name fire. And that could be maybe because of the ball
You were
Because you
going
like
on,
ball
yeah.
pythons, and it's the most similar for the super
Well,
form
Yeah.
of fire.
Yeah.
With the yellow
100%.
sky.
With the
No,
color and the black
I
eyes.
understand why you like fire.
It makes sense in my mind, anyways.
Of course it
Yeah.
does. That's so funny.
This is the acid project that you guys are working on, I think. Is that what that was?
Yeah, we hatched these out of animals that we didn't think would even look like that as hatchlings. We have this one, and then its sibling is the
clutch
phantom
mate,
version.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that one's super funky.
They have the same tail under really close inspection. They have the exact same tail pattern, but this one obviously has a phantom gene, and so like
Okay.
it obviously makes it somewhat unicolor, but the patterning and everything is still there. So like we've stared at these animals like for hours and just been like they're literally the exact same.
I like the phantom one better.
Yeah, the phantom one looks
And
weird.
interesting too, the phantom one doesn't have any spots, but the other one's riddled with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
The-
I found a lot
What?
of people like there's been some animals that are posted and mainly I think they're phantom, but you have like a whole bunch of little spots all over them. Is this basically what you're kind of putting aside and working into the acid? Like I've kind of
No.
myself, I have one here that I've just said, oh, it looks like static, so that's
Yeah.
kind of what I've kind of dubbed it within my own home. But is that what you're trying to kind of figure out, or is it completely different? Or
I think it's completely different. This is for me. I whatever this is, whether it's pixel or not. Right now we're just dubbing it as Acid, Project Acid.
okay,
And it popped up randomly too from pairings that have been together, and then these were the only two that came out like this.
And so
Okay.
it's interesting because we do have animals that we breed for freckles for that static look.
Mhm.
Especially out of like our lust line on that side of the punks groups. Those we really like, and we for the most part they pass on their freckles really easily. Those we've been breeding for years and years, so we've got
Okay.
that one understood pretty well. This one doesn't look like that; it's totally different. Although it's similar in the freckling look, if that makes sense.
I guess Pinball has a bunch of freckles.
Pinball has a ton of
From
freckles
Lust.
from the same
Yeah,
same
yeah.
line, same
Mhm.
project. That project also was Het Super Stripe, and
Okay.
so that was when we started producing our first Super Stripe examples of all those animals
And empty bags.
and empty bags.
So they came together.
Yeah, so het to het, and then you'll get your empty bags. You'll get your Super Stripes. You get your het empty empty bags. You'll get super empty bags and het Super Stripes when you do het to het like that. Because of this.
How are you finding that the freckling is passing on? Like when you're pairing, like is it
So
pretty-
for the lust line that we have for those animals, it passes on to maybe 50%. What we tried to do, which is when we really discovered that they were het for Super Stripe, was that we tried to breed it to an animal that didn't have it
okay?
to identify whether or not how it passed on technically. And so like at least half of the animals that were bred got it. And then
Okay.
at that point, that's when we also popped the Super Stripe animals as well. And then we unpaired them to prove it out. And then we got a Super Stripe from Hannah, and we proved it out like that as well. So we've proved it out like 3 or 4 different ways. One of them was, what else did we do? Oh, we did it with Raph, which is where we knew he was het. And then we did it with Pride, and we knew he was het. and then we did it with Yule, which was the visual super stripe, the homozygous form, and then we get nearly 100%. We get 50% of super stripe, and then 50% of the het super stripes.
Okay, awesome. And now this is the tangerine stuff I think we're getting into, eh?
Yeah. That's one of my favorite ones. This one had a black tongue too.
A black tongue. Oh yeah, I heard
yeah,
someone
this
else
one-
too had hatched one that had a black tongue a little while ago too. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, we've been hatching the black tongue thing for, I don't know, like decades now. A decade and a half at least.
How
But
are
every
you
now and
finding
then
that
you'll get,
passing
it
on?
comes just from phantoms, real dark animals will have them.
Okay.
I've not been able to correlate it to anything other than just real dark animals.
Okay.
So we've seen it in phantoms and non-phantoms, so it's not directly correlated to phantom. We've seen it in what we have not seen it in is lighter colored animals. So if you're breeding
Okay.
like real dark animals to real dark animals, that's the main correlation, is the animals are always dark in color. And I don't mean dark as in black base. I mean like dark as in like the black base that they do have is very, very pitch black.
Okay.
Which meaning they have like no hypogenetics in them whatsoever. So they've never been bred to like hypo animals either. So the line is
Okay.
persistent to dark colored animals. Yeah, that's the only time where that black tongue has been correlated to that specifically. So it could just be like increased melanin that's in the animals. But other than that, I've not been able to find like a direct linkage genetically where it's passing on, like whether it's 50%. It's more like 10%
Okay.
in animals, like 1 out of every 10 of the offspring. If you continue to keep those paired together for multiple years, which is what we've done, that's what you'll see.
That's super. I mean, it's such a small detail, but it's kind of neat, you know.
Yeah. I
Black.
mean, like for me, when I first started with the whole genetics thing, we were looking at pad color, the bottom of the feet.
Okay.
We were looking at belly coloration. We were microscoping scales. We were looking at tongue, eye, and tail patterns. So those are, and obviously the body pattern and coloration is one thing, but the other characteristics that we were looking for in order to identify genes were those. So those are things that we've just always had on our radar. So there are a lot of genetic things that are correlated to the pattern on the tail. So like cappuccinos have a very particular tail, so do sables, right? It's very obvious in those. Even lilies have a particular tail. When you combine lily with a cappuccino to make a frappuccino, they have a tail change in their coloration. When you do a lily to a phantom and you produce phantom lilies, they have a particular tail coloration that changes. Phantom by itself has a particular color change and some minor patterning to their tail as well.
Empty back.
Empty back has it, and the super empty back has it. Super stripes have it. Yeah, you can look at tails forever. I have so many pictures. I had so many freaking pictures of tails. Like,
Unless you have a gecko high white pattern, even in a cappuccino, it starts to push that cappuccino like tail marker.
I had like a massive amount of tail indicators and pictures
Like
before I
early
lost my
on,
computer.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could have included that in the book. It would have been pretty cool.
I think that's the fun thing about like when we started, because there wasn't Instagram or Facebook. Like you're literally just looking at geckos in your collection at the expos and whoever had a website, which wasn't a lot of people.
Yeah.
So it's like we're always looking at little things, like just observing the entirety of the animal.
Yeah. So, you know, the other reason that the book's kind of taking extra long time is because I'm trying to redevelop all of those resources that I had lost back when I lost my computer in 2013, which was kind of partially the reason that I deleted the book in 2015 and like threw it in my recycle bin and then emptied it.
Scrapped it.
And I was like, screw it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to release it. Until Philippe I saw him at a show and he's just like, hey, did you ever send me the book? I never got it. And I was like, oh.
You were interested in reading it?
Damn it.
I scrapped it.
Oh no.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you
Can't
tonight.
recover it.
So of course, I had backups and stuff by
Yeah.
then because it was 2015, and I had learned my lesson in 2013 that if you lose all your shit, you're never gonna get it back again. So
Oh no.
yeah, I had a
Scott's saying,
backup, obviously.
Scott's saying interesting. Have a hard time with my red phantom fraps and red phantom lilies.
Yeah, especially with red in cappuccino, right? Like
Well,
any
even
of those
like
colorations.
phantoms in cappuccinos,
Or phantoms
because
in
dark
cappuccinos,
phantoms
yeah.
in cappuccino sometimes.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah, when you stack combos a certain way, they fight against each other,
Mhm.
right? In order to easily identify the animal.
Even Don, when he was working with dark phantoms, he couldn't decipher between the two, and he started his obsidian line as this came from cappuccino lines. I'm not 100% sure. It may be or may not be. So it's just obsidian. So yep.
He says David from Tiki's was here on Friday and both were just guessing.
If you want, Sky, hit me up and I can give you a few markers that might be able to help you with phantom cap identification.
Mhm.
That's awesome. The other thing we talked about last week too with empty back stuff is I was mentioning the little equal signs on the tails.
Mhm.
So I have a bunch of them that have those. So not all of them do, but you have like some will just have one, and then some will have two down the tail, and those are kind of neat too.
Yeah, it is pretty neat because it was something that I had noticed in a lot of them. Like a lot of them, a lot of the hets and a lot of the supers would have it, but not all of them, right? And
Yeah.
it just depended on how much white patterning you were stacking into the animal. So the first time that we discussed the little equal signs, I had told a few people about it here and there by word of mouth. And then I openly discussed it on the Gecko Pod when we were talking about the empty bags as one of the markers. And I think AJ was just like, I don't know about that. And I was like, well, go look at some of your animals, start looking at those tails, and then tell me now. After you look at a bunch of them, tell me how many have those little dashes, right? And then so it is really funny because like these are just like little characteristics that most of us would miss. But I spent so much time looking at tails and photographing them and documenting them and wanting to put them in the book that I had gigs and gigs of data on that stuff. So trying to redevelop it it's so exhausting and time consuming. So that's one reason that the book is taking more time, because I really want it to be something that's comprehensive. I want everything that's in my head to be in the book and not just be like word of mouth here and there. And there's just things that obviously there were things we couldn't release in Foundation Genetics because of two things, right? If I had put everything in that book, it'd have been around 200 pages because it was 198 pages. And I managed to slim it down to just under 100 pages because I didn't have the confidence that people would even read 200 pages of a Crested Gecko genetics book. So, so when we do release the full book, it'll probably be around 200 to 300 pages.
Even then, when we gave a copy to our friends, like, hey, can you, take a look at this, give us our feedback. And some of them were like, this is way too long. I can't sit through this.
Yeah, nobody could read
it. And
it.
it's like things that weren't being talked about like ever. So you had to like go through terminology at the same time. So it was like not just talking about genetics, but it was also learning genetics and the terminology. And it was a lot for a lot of people like in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, releasing a 200-page book that you have to learn like something that you would normally study in a class, which is genetics. And then two, then the book also tells you that half of the things that you've learned about genetics amongst the hobby and the community of people that all agree upon it is wrong, right? So rude. And then go on to try to blow everybody's mind that like, hey, by the way, these things that we just don't consider genes are actually genes. I in my opinion, would have been just too much. And I was trying to reach the hobby as streamlined and as simple as possible. So, my number one goal was like, for some of the genes, I had like 5 pages. And I was like, how to condense this to 1 page? Like, I only should give people the information that they technically need and want to try to learn just what the gene is, because they have 24 other genes to learn now, and about, I think I listed around 78 total morphotype combos that were in the
Mhm.
hobby that then you would have to like try to remember the definition for. So that's a
Yeah.
lot of work.
But also, it's simplifying the concept without losing the integrity of the information you're putting out there, which was kind of challenging.
It was really hard, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want to be like, oh, okay, well, the het is reserved for recessive mutations only. Like, that's just a silly thing to do. And my number one thing was, what if we managed to help fix the terminology in the hobby and teach people the right way to use this verbiage? I feel like if we managed to do that, it would do two things. It would stop a lot of people from asking questions as to how does a gene work if I pair this and this together? And a lot of questions seem to be directed to people because people didn't understand the terminology because they had the wrong definition for the terminology. So like if you knew that a gene was recessive, then you know what a het and a homozygous version is going to do when pairing another gene that we've labeled as incomplete dominant, right? And so you get exanthic lilies and stuff like that. So it makes more sense if you manage to use the right terminology, because then you can also just go onto any online Punnett table calculator and just input the information. It tells you exactly what you're going to get. Where if you use the mainstream incorrect terminology and you try to use any calculator that's online, because there's a ton of free ones, if you try to use that information, you won't get the results that you get when you breed. So number one thing was, let's align the hobby and the community with true genetic terminology. And then it gives us the ability to use the tools that are in genetics already and developed by schools and scholarly texts and people online that, you know, have made these free websites and free tools for people to use that are in genetics. Are now we're able to use it in the hobby that way.
Are there any tools right now with Crested Gecko genetics and stuff? Or are we just not? Is there any tools or anything like that for the Crested Gecko genetics? Because I know, like with ball pythons, I mean, you can go in Morph Market and you can put a pairing together, right, and put in all the different genes that you have, and then it tells you your odds.
Yeah, there aren't going to be any specific for Crested Geckos right now. The only tool I have is we have an interactive morph guide, which lets you select all the trait characteristics in the animal, and you can build the phenotype. Like, oh, if I added tangerine here and I added white pattern like this, and then I had a red base, what would the gecko look like? So there's that tool. I also have another tool that I haven't released yet that is the Crested Gecko genetics interactive genetics guide. So what that'll do is you select the genes, is like cappuccino, lily white, and then up will pop a frappuccino.
Okay.
Add phantom, and then boop, it'll modify
But right
it
now
to a
it doesn't
phantom.
give you like the percentages of.
Yeah, it won't give you percentages or anything like that.
And the interesting thing about breeding is your percentages don't always come out like that. You'll see the percentage after like several seasons. So it doesn't always work out.
8 lilies and 2 non-lilies in a season, and then the next season you won't produce any.
Right.
But that's just a guideline, right? Like we've paired a banana with a non-banana, and you're getting maybe 50%, and ball pythons should be bananas, and we've gotten basically the whole clutch is bananas. So I mean, like, you know,
so
it's
in theory, in theory,
So you
this
have
is
a
what
super banana.
no, it was not a super banana.
When it comes to animals, you're not always going to get exactly those percentages.
Yeah.
So what took us a while with releasing Foundation Genetics was not just proofreading, but also fact checking and peer reviewing. So we did work with people that were working with these genes, but also we had it peer reviewed by a geneticist, his uncle and aunt. They're oncologists. They study cancer gene like genetics. So they also like peer reviewed our stuff. To see, make sure we're writing the correct stuff.
Yeah, number one thing I wanted was like, I have a whole paragraph describing incomplete dominance, and I wanted somebody that is specifically involved in genetics, really, really understands this stuff, to nitpick at it. Did I say anything or phrase anything that would be somewhat incorrect, or should I change the verbiage for how I described it? Is there a better way to describe it rather? So yeah, a lot of peer reviewing and double checking and fact checking just myself and how other people describe the same word in other texts. So I looked at like tons of definitions, tons of people self defining it themselves and things like that. But mostly under scholarly text, like edu text that you could go search for, right? And like how they described incomplete dominance, or how they describe the word dominant and recessive. And you eventually you end up coming across a few things that are kind of interesting for how they describe things. And they describe their interaction with other genes that are either allelic or non-allelic with that gene. And so like I tried to sprinkle some of those interesting good verbiage concepts into the book
Like
as well.
scholarly text too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's come a
Awesome.
long way, and we've opened up so much conversation. This is stuff that people weren't really talking about when we started it. So it's been really exciting.
It's awesome because I have to say, like, me coming from a transition from ball pythons where there's so much of that and they have like shed testing and all this, and coming into crested geckos, it was really kind of nice to have and to find all this genetic talk and to kind of, nerd out on it and see how it applies. But there's so much work still to go.
yeah.
And
Absolutely.
which is even more exciting because you still have so much that you can still learn and discover.
I mean, it took ball pythons like 25 plus years before they started having genetic testing on stuff. But you have to remember they had 25 plus years to kind of agree on at least a few of the genes, Like these are recessive. This is the heterozygous and homozygous form of this gene, right? This is the dominant form of this gene. So without some type of community and kind of coming together and us kind of even trying to agree on some of this stuff instead of infighting, I think there's no way we're going to be able to have genetic testing, because a genetic test isn't going to actually reveal any information. All it's going to reveal is all the genes that are there. But how are you going to, out of hundreds of thousands of allele pairs, going to find which one is cappuccino, which one is lily white, which one is xanthic, unless you're able to, as a community, agree that these samples in the hobby represent heterozygous forms and homozygous forms of those genes. Then you can start doing hundreds of genetic tests against a bunch of het lilies and a bunch of homozygous lilies to then be like, okay, when we do the testing on these animals that are lily, this is the genes that are the same. And when we do it to normals that are not lily, these are absent. And then so with process of elimination, you go, these are the allele pairs or sets that are most likely going to be the lily white gene. And then again, you agree that that's the locus. So that's the gene that you identify. And then you keep doing it. And as you keep doing it and doing more and more genetic testing, those odds increase that it's more likely that is the gene that's responsible for creating the lily white phenotype. So
well, and it's isolating it too, right? Whereas with ball pythons, you can isolate it by breeding to a normal and really saying, okay, well, I know what's in this animal, and it makes it a bit easier. Even with, when you're getting hundreds of different samples, you can kind of isolate, okay, this is what we're mapping for a specific gene.
So for the lily, if we were to do it right, they would all have to be like a black based lily. You can't do a black base, a yellow base, a red base, a tri, a phantom, a this, a that, right? If you do that, then you're complicating the result for genotype testing.
Yeah. Well, let's bring up some pictures again, and we'll talk about some other stuff that you guys are working with. I think we're still in like the tangerines animals.
Yeah, those are tangerine, head empty back. That's Sunny Blue.
No, that one's not Sunny Blue.
Which one was Sunny Blue? Sunny Blue is the next one. The one probably. No, that's another tangerine. Similar tangerine project, but different, obviously.
But that has tangerine in the pinning too.
Yeah, it has tangerine in the pinning. You can see like the difference between the center of the dorsum and the pin itself, how tangerine kind of like highlights that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is also yellow base, so you can see it's putting that tangerine pigment into it. It's got it on the tail and stuff, but yeah. And you can see what normally would be white pattern has this like pinkish, like tangerine hue to it. Oh, this is our punks.
Punks.
Pandemonium.
Yeah, Pandemonium. So that's out of the Punks projects, and this guy came out. We named him Pandemonium.
So what are
He's
the
got a
things
lot
that
of
you're
red.
finding? Is
That's
this
Punks
tan-
right there.
Mm.
That's
Okay.
Punks. Yeah, Hyper
Hyper
Tangerine,
Phantom.
Phantom, Dark Animals. Bred over a couple generations. No inbreeding in this line at all in order to produce these phenotypes.
This
It
one's
has
had
quite a
empty.
neat line down the tail too on
Yeah.
this one. Right?
That one's a heady bee.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get like several of them that have that stripe through it too. It's pretty cool. That the punks is like a passion project for me. I absolutely love it. I've always wanted like, the classic Halloween,
Yeah.
but like a more wicked looking version.
Yeah, where the orange, like the tangerine, really stays.
Yeah.
It doesn't brown out.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
tough for our Halloweens. I mean, we had a Halloween project back
Because
in the
the
day, like
orange kept
everybody
turning
did,
brown.
and it would brown out after like 2 or 3 years or 4 years.
So we're like, we need to use tangerine. Like
Yeah.
this, we're not doing this orange nonsense.
yeah. The
Yeah,
tangerine.
Tangerine
What?
question here. So if highlighter is
Yeah.
potentially one copy of Tang, and then the orangey one, it would be 2 copies. What are your thoughts about the pink ones? So would that be just on white pattern?
Well, the orangey ones, if you're talking about the ones like that you see from J.K. Soria, is that?
Mhm.
Yeah. Those, I'm not sure if they're the same type of tangerine gene. We call them tangerines, but I'm not 100% convinced that that is the same type of tangerine gene that I'm using in my punks line. It could be a different version. It could
It's
be a different.
expressed so differently, like
Yeah.
so saturated and consistent
It's
through.
very consistent.
Yeah.
We also have some from Steve.
Suspenseful Steve.
Suspenseful Steve. We've talked to him quite a bit. We
So
have a
we
couple
did
of his.
import the ones from
We did import from
Soria.
Soria as well.
Mhm.
So, just because we label something as tangerine doesn't mean that there's not different types of tangerine genes
Right.
out there, right?
Yeah.
So it is interesting to me the result that she's getting from her lily pairings that are making that
Yeah.
vibrant, rich orange. I think it's safe to call it tangerine right now, but then who knows whether or not that changes later on, because I'm going to be crossing all of these tangerine
Yes,
things
to see how
into
they work together,
what we
if they're
currently
compatible.
define the tangerine gene. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
I have it. Yeah, we were talking about this offline too, because I've brought some over, and it's very different with some of the tangerine stuff I have here too. And I know my male, I'm like, I already have 3 pairings going with him, and with the
Nice.
female, so it's really exciting to see what's gonna, yeah. Heather says the plot thickens, maybe.
Yeah, we're gonna be
They're
pairing ours
definitely very different.
this season. The interesting thing too is that a lot of people have correlated. Oh, maybe the orange vibrancy is coming because of the red base. Well, she also has non-red based
Like
versions
black-based.
that are black based or
Mhm.
lavenders, and they still have the same intensity of that
Yep.
orange. So it doesn't seem like red is what's absolutely necessary to create
Yeah.
that vibrancy. Maybe it helps, right? It helps to boost it a bit, but it's not what's
Yeah.
creating the orange itself as a combo. Because we have lavender ones. She just posted a new ones on Instagram that
Yeah.
you can see that weren't red. So
There's
those
yellow
are
ones
really
too, and the yellow ones are pretty
Yeah.
wild. Like I'm
Yeah,
working
yeah,
it
yeah.
into my yellow projects here is what I'm doing.
Oh,
But,
okay. Oh, that's cool. You gotta send me some
yeah.
pictures then. I want to see this project. I didn't even know you had them.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So-
have it into some yellow, and I have it into some empty back projects and some soft scale stuff.
Oh,
So yeah.
Heck yeah.
This boy
Yeah.
right here actually is here on loan.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Kayla at Linear, and he's being crossed into our saber-tooth tiger stuff.
That stuff is
We're-
nice. I like
we're
that.
we're trying to make punks versions of the saber tooth, because currently the punks line right now, in order to get that look, has to have pin in it. So we do have a couple of really vibrant orange ones, phantom orange ones, and we want to try to put more of that tangerine gene into it to see what happens. And this is a cool
Awesome.
example
But
of
this
it.
one's a male, so we're working with also like not just punks, but also like strawberry blonde. But strawberry blondes, they don't typically have that bold striping. So what
Right.
we want to do is, you know, make the bolder stripes on it, but red.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yep, very excited to have it there.
To go back to Heather's question, what are you finding is contributing to like the pink hues of tangerine on animals?
I need to see a picture of what you mean by that.
Like the pink
There's so many
hues, like
versions of pink hues. So
You know what? I have one here, so I can see if I can bring up a pic. I just got to go and bring it in here. Here, while I'm doing that, I'll bring up another animal. You guys can talk about grunge while I'm going to find the
yeah, this
picture.
is our grunge line. So this is actually kind of what inspired originally the punks line.
he was actually tangerine as a baby, like
yeah,
a
he was a
very
nice
vibrant
orange.
tangerine and black.
Yeah.
And then as he, not even a year later, it was like maybe 6, 7
No,
months.
it was like no. He started to fade around like 12 or 13 months. Is
But
when
it's
we
still
started to
early
notice
on.
it.
Like
Yeah, it was
typically
early on.
when you have a drastic change like this, it doesn't happen till like 5 or 6 years. But he
Yeah.
lost all his color around
really early.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can still see it in the picture. Like if you look at his chin, you can still see a hint
Not
of the
anymore.
orange, but not anymore.
He's
Yeah.
all gray now.
This almost looks like a Photoshop picture because, like, if you look at his tail, that gray looks like newspaper, right? It looks so
he
bizarre.
looks like newspaper.
It's one of my favorite geckos, honestly. But yeah, this is also obviously a phantom, with a lot of orange patterning is what it started off with.
Okay.
And this is just how he fires and misfires throughout the day. It's a very cool animal. But this is also so what we ended up doing was, okay, if we keep what started the project was this animal, or the concept of the project, and then as we bred multiple of them, we would get this newspaper look after about a year, is how it developed. And so it wasn't until we started stacking tangerine and hyper tangerine into the project that no longer happened. So
Okay.
once we got that, and then that's what took off the punks project. But we really like this look anyway, and so we split the project off into a grunge project. So it has to do with like I don't know if you've ever seen like punk flyers for bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Think of that. That's
like almost like yeah.
The grungy look of the flyers where they're black and white. Yeah. And then
It almost
punks,
has like a gritty look to it, right? Like
yeah, exactly. And then punks, just because they're punks, they break the mold. So that's where the names come from.
here, I'm gonna bring up the pink. I have it here. So I found it. I mean, it's still very young, but it's maintained it. So let's see here. Come on.
Oh yeah, okay.
I think maybe that's what she's talking about. Yeah, and she mentioned the bubblegum pink.
Yeah, so it's basically for us, and how I define bubblegum stuff is tangerine and hyper tangerine on white pattern instead of orange pattern. So I don't know. Do you have a picture of Havoc?
I'm not sure which one's
He's
that
a
one.
really, really orange gecko with like a blue base. Tangerine
Oh,
with blue base.
I didn't save it in here, but I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, so he's a really good example of that. He had a ton of pink coloration to him, really hard to photograph. And so I've several pictures of him where like you can see the belly had a lot of pink reddish coloration to it as well. So I took a bunch of really good pictures of him when he was in his prime for those pink orange tones. But that is a result. So it's out of the same line of the previous tangerines that you saw earlier on that we just pictured, where
Yep.
I said it was highlighting the pins in real orange, but then it faded to like a white in the middle. Same exact lineage of that line that formed Havoc.
Okay, I think I have it on my phone, so I'll see if I can bring it up.
No worries.
I do remember
Yeah,
seeing
for
it.
me, as far as the pink stuff that we produce and that we sell, it seems like it's hyper tangerine on white pattern.
Okay.
I've noticed the bubblegum pink is so vibrant when they're hatchlings and babies, like
Oh,
young
Gecko Nerd
babies.
just made a good point. I probably should have also mentioned that.
Bring it
hypo.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the hypo is really what's going to help put that pink kind of like right in front of you.
Right.
So it's going to pull out a lot of that dark melanin as
Because
well.
the parents to Havoc was a lavender to a tangerine.
Lavender tangerine
Yeah,
to,
his
a
dad-
hyper tangerine.
Yeah,
Yuki.
Yuki.
Yeah, and she was also hypo.
So she's yellow base
So-
with tangerine pattern.
hypo on both sides, and it was like 2 copies of hypo because they're blue and really, really faded. So homozygous hypo. I think I have labeled hypo right now as dominant, somewhat incomplete dominant. Me personally, I just want to do a little bit more work before I try to change the gene to incomplete dominance. Whenever I prove genes, I start with either dominant or recessive, 2 simplest forms, and then you have to prove out incomplete dominance and or codominance. So here's a really good example. This is homozygous hypo on both parents.
Okay.
Tangerine and hypertangerine on each parent. And then one was yellow base, one was lavender. So he obviously didn't get the yellow base gene. And what else? Yeah, so this one got hypertangerine, lavender, homozygous. Oh yeah, and white pattern. Sorry. So Yuki has some white patterning, and the male has some white patterning, has a lot more white patterning as well. So this just stacked with pattern, stacked with white patterning, stacked with hypo, and obviously hypertangerine stacked. So yeah, one of my favorite geckos. Blue is pretty blue.
He's the only lavender out of that pairing, like ever. I think there's like one.
There's another one. Yeah, there's 2.
His niece
Yeah.
is lavender.
Yeah, and that other, and then the siblings hatched others that were lavender as well. Remember?
Right. Don't touch my gecko.
Yeah, don't touch my gecko,
So
which is his brother,
Havoc's
right?
clutchmate is yellow based, and Anthony kept trying to get rid of him. He's like, just sell him. I have Havoc. I'm like, no, I like this yellow base one.
Yeah.
His tangerine's really amazing. It really comes through on the yellow. And Anthony just kept trying to sell him. Like he kept putting him on the for sale side. So one day I just put, don't touch my gecko.
No, you put DTGMA.
And
I was
don't
like,
touch my gecko. Anthony.
what does this stand for? One day when I was looking at the and she goes, don't touch my gecko, Anthony.
Anthony.
And I was like,
It's like
No, your acronyms.
I was dying. At that point, I was like, you kids and your damn acronyms.
So we captured him and we bred him and him to a grunge female reproducing the lavenders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
the genetics
amazing.
works really well. It plays through pretty on point. Hypertangerine lavenders with white pattern, those probably gotta be like, they're really rare. They're
Mhm.
hard. Most tangerines are gonna be coming in orange pattern or have some types of orange pattern on it. And not a whole lot of them are hypo. A lot of them are starting to become hypo in the last couple seasons, I've noticed, which is really cool. So yeah. Oh, this
I
is
know
our.
Quincy has some really nice hypo tangerines he was showing off on last
Does
week.
he?
And
Give me some. I need more.
I love hypo stuff. Like even lilies, like hypo lilies, when they just come out
That lavender?
so like
Yeah.
so good. It's so good. And the white is so crisp on them too.
Yeah, like what crisp white is what's really cool. This is our empty back. His head empty back, so empty back.
His
They're
name
not
is
super, but
Thorn.
his name is Thorn because look at his
Crest.
crests. They have these
They look like
orange.
rose thorns.
Yeah,
That's
they're
so
so
cool.
wicked. I love this guy.
So we actually have a yellow one that looks very similar. We named him Yellow
Thorn.
so
Yeah.
creative.
So it's a yellow version of this,
Yeah.
basically.
That's awesome.
So he's got great structure too. He's got big old noggin. So he's breeding in our empty back stuff right now.
Yeah, this is when his noggin was small.
Yeah,
his noggin's
this
bigger
keeps growing.
now.
Like he
Yeah,
could
it's
fly
just-
away like Dumbo.
So you have quite a bit of empty back in your collection as well. You're working
Empty
with.
back and super empty back. Yeah.
Yeah. One question, and I'm sure Quincy will be paying attention. We've been talking about this. Have you been working with and finding any empty back animals that have no pinning?
Great question. I think a lot of people are really, really interested in that. We have the animals to attempt to remove it, but we have primarily bred the empty back with pinstripe because that is the best indicator to know that the gene is present, right?
Yeah.
Number one thing is just like we have been breeding combos for many years, and it's one of those things that maybe you require the right combo in order to understand that, hey, maybe there's a gene present there that we're missing. And David even brought this up to me not too long ago, because what was it? He said something. It was a really good point. And have you ever like seen the empty back gene without any pinstripe at all? And so thinking about it, I'd be like, if there wasn't any pinstripe at all, what the gene would be a lot more masked. It'd be more difficult to identify in the animal. So you would probably have to really stack a lot of patterning into the animals in order to see it. Now, I've done a few experiments already with empty back because we've been breeding it for a while, longer than super stripe actually. Empty back for me kind of came on my radar as an actual gene back in 09-ish. I saw Alan had a animal on his website, and I tried my best to get to his facility to find the animal and get it.
You're like, it's mine.
We're like, Alan, what is this? We need this. We need to work with this.
I was like,
and then he's
come
like, I need to
on.
go find it. I don't know where it is. So we actually ended up getting like not that exact animal, but an animal from his line.
Yeah. So that we've been breeding and trying to breed empty back for many years. I mean, it's for me, it's been one of my favorites. Like that animal we got from AC right there. That is just a fantastic example
Pumpkinhead.
of what empty back can do to the pinning and how it reduces that pattern on the middle. Now, for our experiments with empty back, what we tried to do was we tried to see, what we noticed was that a lot of them lack a lot of lateral patterning. So I always wondered, I was like, is empty back, is part of the gene reducing some of that patterning? Obviously, we know it's reducing patterning because it empties the back. So it must be doing something to the laterals as well. And these are some examples of just like what it's doing to the laterals, even though this animal should have a lot more patterning. And we have other projects that have like extreme Harleys that we've bred into empty backs, and you'll get a 50% spread of offspring with empty back and without the empty back. And the ones with empty back have reduced lateral patterning in comparison to the siblings that hatch without the empty back gene. And they have a lot more Harley patterning on the arms, the legs, the upper middle laterals, etc. And it's whether or not pin is involved, that lateral patterning goes away. So we tried to breed empty back to obviously something that you're not going to want to breed to, which is like a Harley without a whole lot of pinning, partial pinning. Pinned Harley is what you'd probably say at most. So yeah.
But when bred to tiger or animals that had a lot of tiger patterning, we've noticed that it caused a lot of freckling in the pattern. And then also too, it would break the empty back wouldn't be so clean in the middle. It would kind of like start having like zigzags.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like little cross lines, you know.
Yeah.
Too,
we should have sent you
like this one. This one has tigering in the lineage, so you can kind of
so you can see it starts.
See what it does to that patterning, how it's really hard. It's fighting it really hard. So you have genes that just fight each other all the time in Cresties.
And then we have this fun project.
Sakura.
So I was convinced that Sakura is genetic mutation of some form. Because how can you get this white color?
And
Now
her
this
sister
isn't.
was white too.
We've all seen white crested geckos, right? They're always
Mhm.
fired down. You know, I know because I've had a lot of crested geckos, and I know what a fired down phantom looks like. That, you know, has color, has grayish, whitish, yellowish patterning, and is kind of like muddy and stuff like that. This is not that. This is something totally different. She doesn't have like pink toes that are like translucent. She just has pink colored toes because they're so light in color. There's
Like
very,
skin.
very
It's
little
just her
melanin there.
flesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had a Sakura. She lived up until
We actually lost
17,
her
18,
recently. She was about
19.
19.
Oh no, yeah, she was
Oh
19.
wow.
Yeah.
Because we acquired her as an adult. Like, she was several years old.
Yeah.
We got her in like 2008-ish.
So looking really closely here, this is her fully fired up.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell because her
wild.
cheeks are all red. That's the most I could get out of her fully fired up.
Not really red.
Yeah, they're
like on her.
yeah. I mean, that's what you would imagine, like some reddish cheeks, right?
Right.
You got that. You've got a little bit of coloration there. You can see her lips are paper white. But this was the most I could get out of her colored up as much as possible. You can see around her eyes, she's got a little bit of yellowing there, right? So she's fired up. The interesting thing is that she developed dark coloration in her eyes, in both eyes. I've seen crested geckos develop dark coloration, and it usually forms some weird genetic disorder. But this is different.
Or caused by trauma.
Of some sort, right? I've seen that. But this is different. This is a genetic component to her eye coloration
She
because she passes it on to her offspring.
Yeah.
Oh, she
Not
does.
all of
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and so her offspring developed the same exact dark coloration, just as dark like that. And what I have here is I have flash in the background, and I have a ring light in her eye, which you can see there in the reflection.
Yeah.
So I am like oversaturating her with color in order to try to get the detail in the eye out. And so I'm still hoping this is a genetic mutation. Her sister had the same coloration and also dark eyes. And her sister died from really early on. We're not 100% sure exactly what, but she died early on. Sakura lived until 19. And then her offspring still get the dark eye. And we have just a whole really nice line of them that look very similar, if not near identical to her, and several that are white like her as well.
So we've tried her
cool.
with different males. The first one, he looked like her base color, but all their babies came out red from that male. And so we tried her with a yellow base male, vanilla, like a very hypo, very pale yellow.
Yeah. And 50% came out yellow.
Yeah.
And 50% came out white.
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
And so
Really cool.
Tom at Geckological did us a solid and sent me his male that looked so similar. Like, he's got a little bit more yellow tone, but very, very pale, and sent us Mr. White, and they have made all babies that
white.
they all look like her.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think genetically what she would be is a yellow base, I think. I know we've talked about, you'll hear people talk about like cream base. This is the closest I've ever technically seen to a cream base, because a lot of cream based animals are either really old, yellows and stuff like that. So yeah, this is the closest I've seen to that.
Even with her old age, when she stopped firing up or down and she ended up getting a little bit darker, it was kind of yellow.
Kind of, yeah.
But not dark. Like, she stayed pretty pale, but like slightly yellow.
And she didn't really develop that slightly yellow until like 14, 13 years old or something like that.
She stayed this color.
I don't know how many people have had geckos that they've kept like from like, you know, hatchling until like 20 years. If you ever do, and you get a lot, and you have a lot of them that end up getting to that age, you'll see quite a developmental life stages as they change color. every color, like from red to yellow to black to lavender to sakura, which we just call Project Sakura right now.
Okay.
We have all our offspring. So
We bred one of her offspring to Tofu. Tofu was lavender. And their babies,
produce acid.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what, yeah.
That's what produced acid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's
And
super cool.
they're kind of like straw colored, like that color that the phantom is. Their babies are usually that color. But also
That's
we
really
have
neat. Yeah.
we have a daughter that looks like identical to Sakura,
Carbon copy.
but instead of yellow, she's like light pink, like how her
she's got that, like, she's got those pink feet,
yeah.
because you got such thin flesh material there, right? So
Mhm.
you can see into them, but it's not translucent where it's like clear like crystal, right? So yeah.
Okay. Very cool. I think we have
We don't
one
really
more project I was going to pop up here because I'm really excited about this.
I
Yeah.
love Mr. Grinch. Mr. Grinch came from Dawn. He released like one or two on his fetal.
Yeah.
And I reached out to him. I said, "What are you doing? I need this. I need this gecko right now. Go find me one."
Yeah,
I
we've
like begged him for
always
it.
wanted a green project. I mean, freaking, oh my god, for how long? Since you got your first from Rami.
From Iro.
Iro. Yeah, he was a really nice green gecko. He was really cool.
But he wasn't a phantom. He
wasn't a phantom like this guy.
Yeah.
He was a pinstripe. And we just he had all sorts of problems with hemipenes, so we never got him to reproduce really.
So I reached out to Dawn. I said, "Give me all the information. Like, what are the parents? Why is this green?" You know, I was like hounding him. He said, "You know what? I'll send him to you, and you can figure it out." So as soon as I got him, and he actually sent it to Anthony. He was like, "No, Jess, I sent you a different gecko, like for you to work on, but this green one is Anthony for Anthony to figure out." And I said, "Absolutely not. His name is Mr. Grinch. He's the Grinch Project. He's
my
my
gecko."
gecko."
Yeah, pretty funny.
And so he recently sent us.
So no, go ahead.
He sent us 2 females to work with the project.
Yeah.
This came out of his cappuccino, like originally cappuccino project, and then his obsidians, which were the Black Phantom's possible caps, and then this green came out. So he is making a handful of them. Mr. Grinch, he's so clean, no spots. The females have a couple spots, but yeah. And then we do have an obsidian from Dawn as well. There's the Black Phantom.
Yeah.
So we're gonna cross to that to see how that works. If hopefully don't make any supers. So first we have to make sure that this is 1, not cappuccino, and then 2, how it interacts with different base colors.
Yeah.
But green is such a tricky one. There's not much information, right? And I know we were talking about it because I got Lipton. My guy is bright green, but he's the one where he'll like fire up almost black and fire down gray, and his in between is like a clover green.
Yeah. So the perfect thing about this photo is that he's misfired, and it's showing like the 2 tones of what he is. This is just his color.
He is green through and through. So we've had several green geckos over the years, right? The ones I've discounted would be like the ones that are only green fired down, and then the ones that are only like they have a different greenish hue fired up. But we've only ever owned Iro that was green through and through, right? And fired up, fired down through all the stages of it. Because firing up and firing down is a modification, it's a change in the scalation of what's actually happening, then that means the light that's refracting is what's producing the green color. And so a change will indicate that the change is what's causing the green to come into view for us, right? In order to, for us to see it, which means it's a mechanical change. So, back to me being super technical and nerdy, but if you have a green through and through, then whatever the mechanism is that's allowing us to see green is fixed in the animal. It's static. It's not due to a change in melanophores traveling and moving in order to form the green color. And so that those are the two distinctions that I've made with the color green, because green is not a color or pigment that's produced in any reptile. We only see green because of that's the wavelength that comes back to us due to how it's physically oriented in the scale of the animal.
We do have a couple green females that are super soft scale, like hypo.
Mhm.
They do very like green to gray, like a grayish green.
Yeah.
So
Kind
we
of almost,
want to
I
see
have
if
a
we can
female
actually.
here is a soft scale as well, and she has like almost like a teal hue to her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Wow,
love
cool.
soft scale, super
Teal.
soft scale stuff,
You
because
gotta
it's
show me
like
that
the
picture.
structure of the scales and like the spacing and the way that the light is being refracted, you
Mhm.
know, so it
Well,
changes.
she's the one that's paired to my green male, and I've gotten 3 hatchlings out of that pairing. And one's a
Okay.
phantom that will fire at one point green. The other one
Mhm.
has been maintaining the green, and then the other one's
Okay, that's
right
great.
now really, really dark. And then I have an olive phantom as well that's gone to the monochrome female that I have here.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
we'll see what comes
Cool.
with that. But yeah, greens are exciting because you don't see a lot of them.
No, they're so rare. I mean, the one that Don sent us was probably the greenest I'd ever seen up until Iro. So yeah, we're really excited about them.
There was a green gecko back in the day, and his name was Geek.
Was it Geek? Oh
Geek.
yeah,
I don't
yeah, that's
remember the
right.
breeder, and it was like very
Dude,
like yes,
you're going way back.
2007. And I saw Geek, and he looked kind of like Mr. Grinch. And I said, you know
Yeah.
what? I need that gecko. And I had never seen anything like that ever again until Mr. Grinch came. And
Yeah.
I said, I need
Yeah,
that gecko.
that's
That
true.
is
You're right.
exactly the gecko that
Awesome.
I've been chasing for
It was meant to be.
2007. Yeah. Yep.
So what would
And no
what would
matter
you
the base,
say? Sorry,
no
go ahead.
matter what combinations of bases that we bred, even phantom, you know, black to red to yellow, we never made green like that. So
Yeah.
we're really excited
Yeah.
that he's here and we
I
get to
bet.
do this.
Yeah, I would love to make sure I could get this one into the book too. So
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
We need data
The
ASAP.
So what would you say is your most exciting like project or 1 or 2 projects that you're like really stoked about for this season?
you answer. I have no idea. I have too many projects.
You got to pick one each.
If I had
One,
to only pick one to pair,
Like no, like what's your most exciting? Like I can't wait to see what's going to happen with this project this year. Like do you have something that you're really kind of excited about or
like butterflies in my stomach thinking about this right now. I'm like, I gotta pick one. I'm like,
just cuz they're
I gotta
all
say,
awesome. You can't pick
I'm gonna
one.
say Mr. Grinch is the newest one, so I'm super
Okay.
excited to even collect data points for that. I want to see
Yeah.
what the hatches look like right away and how he, like, what the babies look like from different base colors. But we have Mr. Pixel here from Tom, and I love that gecko, and he has a different female this year, and I love
yeah,
him.
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah. All of the things that I'm really excited about are things that I've never paired before.
Okay.
So they're animals from our friends, basically.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, the one Jessica mentioned, which is Pixel, I think that one's really cool.
Mr. Pixel.
He has that blue base
Like that cold
coloration.
fusion blue.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
cool.
he's got all that pixeling in his laterals and
Mhm.
upper laterals and patterning.
Like
So
what we were saying, like static looks like. Where it's
yeah,
like,
but
Yeah.
on a blue base,
Yeah.
right? Which is
That's
wicked
cool.
cool.
and he's got like the freckling on his face too. He's just the most, you know, I don't post him. I should just make a post of him because he's here. I
True.
love him.
Yeah, he's
You should
wicked
make
cool.
a post of him today.
Yeah. Actually, I'm about to go post him today.
Do it. Make a video.
I love him so much.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah, we got that guy and we got Duke from Tom as well. He's pretty interesting. He's got like every white pattern gene you can freaking think of stacked into one animal.
Yeah.
I don't do. We never did like high end tries. Those really expensive
Okay.
ones. So we do have a new group of those going. We got some from Donna at Crimson, which are really really pretty, And then we got some from Northern Gecko
Mhm.
and Urban
Urban
Some nice
Gecko.
Gecko.
Are
pies.
pretty
Yeah.
interesting. And
But the one from Urban in particular is just,
yeah, that one's really cool.
I don't
looking.
even know how we ended up getting him. He's
It's just
amazing.
random. We just were like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's get that gecko. So we
Yeah.
got some tri that we're doing that are interesting that we have that are like high end tries that we've never done before.
I know
Um,
Donna's stuff, because we have like a handful of Winchester kids.
yeah, we do have a bunch of Winchester kids. Well, a handful, not a bunch, but yeah,
A
they're really pretty.
handful. Yeah.
So that tri line I think is pretty cool that we're going to be pairing. We do have our Sable project that's going
Sables,
really
yeah.
well. That's actually going to Duke. So,
Oh, and then we have the Doberman lilies from
yeah.
Dawn.
I'd say the Sable and Duke pairing is going to be wicked cool. That one I'm pretty excited to see what
Like the
what
high
gets produced,
pattern.
because we have these two. So like we said before, we like really weird, interesting geckos, right? So we have two really weird, interesting sables, like really weird, interesting sables. And then we're pairing them to some high patterned animals that we produce, like Sanji and Blair, which is our triple X white pattern line. A lot of the triple X animals are orange, or what do they call them? What is the tangerine orange color that they call them? Orange Tangerine Dream, right?
Tangerine Dream is their pixel line.
Oh, that is their pixel line. Darn it. Well, they have really cool orange.
Oh, we have a
Triple
pixel.
X.
We have a pixel from Tangerine.
Oh yeah, we have Pixel as well that we're breeding
from
them.
Pangea, yeah.
Oh no, we have too many geckos. Sorry.
You can't just pick one. You have a lot of exciting projects that are going to come.
Like, how can you just do one? Like, there's
You
so much
can't.
to do.
You
We're
can't.
so
I don't even have nearly as much as what you have, and I have a hard enough time trying to pick one.
And who can forget about Sabretooth? Like, we're putting him to work. Like, we got him new females, like different stuff this year, and we bred Sabretooth into Cappuccino last year, and like it was a short season from that pairing, but we got two, and I kept one because oh my god, Sabretooth, like tiger Cappuccino stuff, so good.
Yeah.
And it enhances that orange coloration too. It's really cool.
Yep.
That's awesome. And you guys are doing shows, and are you going to Flora Fauna this year as well, or
no traveling for us this year? I don't think.
Yeah,
no traveling. It's going to be a mellow year.
I know we didn't travel last year either.
Yeah.
But the previous years we were traveling a lot more, like Tinley, October Tinley.
Yeah, I went to like every Tinley, went to Flora Fauna and stuff. But yeah,
no, just October Tinley. We didn't go to March Tinley.
No, I'm saying we went every year to Tinley.
Yeah.
Well, we've hit the 2-hour mark almost. I knew we'd make it over an hour and a half. Can you imagine?
You said, well,
you cut us off anytime you want.
You know what? This is now officially, you got the award. This is your first live, right?
Yes.
We were saying this early. So everyone, this is their first live, and you are the officially the longest episode.
Oh my god, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I want to stop breaking that record.
No. That's awesome. And we'll have to definitely have like a part 2. I think maybe doing an update later in the season and stuff with some of the projects that you're working on, and seeing, like, hey, remember the stuff we were talking about? This is what we like a hatchling episode, or like this is the cool stuff that even like with the tangerine stuff and the green stuff, like there's just so much cool hatchlings I think that are going to come out this season, and it's super exciting. Before we shut down for the day, why don't you just pimp out your socials? I mean, a lot of people already know where to find you and go and get all the details for the genetics, but why don't you I'll give you a moment to say your website and everywhere they can find you.
So Anthony's usually on our Instagram, and he's always chatting, and like literally his computer has 2 screens, like a work screen and a little screen, and he's always like chatting on Instagram. So if you need to hit up like genetic questions or photos, or even just to say hi, our Instagram is lm.reptiles, and we're active more on Instagram than Facebook. Facebook is Lil Monsters Reptiles. And then you can find our website and Foundation Genetics, all the articles like Cappuccino, Sable articles, at our website, lmreptiles.com.
That's awesome. I think everyone was just like, tuned in and listening to every single word you were saying because the chat was very quiet today. So
Is
they're
it?
like absorbing everything. They're like, oh, I want to hear every word you're saying.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's
Hopefully.
awesome. It's great because we need to have these discussions, a lot more of these type of, interactions and learning. Knowledge
Mm,
is power at the end of the day. The more we share,
I
the
agree.
more we learn is how we can really kind of progress and,
Absolutely.
develop on some of these projects, which is great.
Mhm.
Cassandra says, loved it. Thank you. She was actually said a comment earlier and that she's like, I'm taking notes, like I'm tuned in, man. Awesome. Well, I'm going to kick you backstage and thank you so
Okay,
much for hopping on and I will see
absolutely.
you in a few minutes. And again, check out their page and all their links. I know your website's on your Instagram too, so they can go and find you through there and wealth of knowledge on that website for sure. And again,
Thanks,
I thank you
guys.
for joining and I'll see you in a few minutes.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Awesome episode. For those of you who watched live, thanks for sticking around. And for the replay crew, I appreciate you. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. And I will be back. We're not going to have a show next week, but we should have somebody the following Sunday. So we're going to kind of keep it right now bi-weekly for the winter until we hit spring and summer. And definitely appreciate you sticking with us and joining in the chat. And have a great rest of your Sunday. And I'm hitting the gym now. And have a good week as well. And I'll catch you in the next one.
Shake your dreams from your hair. I'm already there, right beside you.